Welcome to the training on how to submit a grant application and the electronic grants management system. This training is brought to you by the Ohio EMA Preparedness Grants Branch. This training is intended to be a guide for users of EGMS receiving State Homeland Security Grant funding, Law Enforcement State Homeland Security Grant funding, Urban Area Security Initiative funding, Operation Stone Garden Grant funding, or Nonprofit Homeland Security Grant Program funds. Completing an application to EGMS for these programs is the official approval of your funding and is the first step towards receiving reimbursement for your projects. No procurement or other steps should be taken toward project completion until this application is completed. This process establishes the structure of the budget of how you will apply the grant funds and determines the specific amount which may be requested for reimbursement. To begin, if you need to request access to EGMS, visit our website here. Then click on Request an EGMS account and complete the contact information. Finally, click Submit Request and your request is sent to the Ohio EMA Preparedness Grants Administrator. If you need to reset your password, visit the EGMS website, then click on Forgot Password and fill out the username and email address associated with that account. Then click Continue and answer the security question and click Continue once more. An email will be sent to your email address with further instructions. Now on to how to complete your application. First, once you have logged into EGMS, click on the link for Grant Applications. This will take you to a page that shows you all the grant money allocated by the state for a given grant year. Click on the Start button to begin an application. On the next page, you will find that the application is broken down into 4 steps, and the system will not let you submit your application until you have completed them all. Click on Continue to enter Step 1. Step 1 includes the point of contact information. This is important because all correspondence through EGMS will be directed to whomever is listed in this form. This means you should be automatically notified of status changes to your application. If a secondary contact is listed, they should also receive an email of any status changes regarding that particular grant. When finished, click Next. Click on the Add New Item button to create all new line items for this budget and complete all the necessary information. Step 2 includes developing the line items that will fall under the overall projects. These are more specific compared to the overall projects you will create in Step 3, which should be more general. Let's stop and discuss what should be included in your line item and project descriptions. Here are some criteria that must be met for your project to be approved. Keep these in mind when developing your line items and projects in EGMS. So, does this line item, for instance, have a terrorism nexus? Items can be dual use, but cannot be day-to-day, and must primarily be used for major terrorism events. Is this item regional, deployable, and shareable? This is vetted at the regional level when priorities are given by ranking each item that is submitted to the grant. For the state, this is assured by receiving a sign-off for each project, either initially with the initial budget or later within the grant period if they are reallocating funds to a new line item. Does a FEMA AEL entry appear approved for that specific item with a note for the relevant grant program? FEMA AEL entries often state specifically what accessories are allowable and have notes that may state further issues with a given item, which may indicate it is only allowed for a given purpose. For instance, computer hardware integrated on the AEL states only hardware procured as part of a system allowable under the indicated grant programs is allowable under this item. Does the project meet the guidance? For this, you may be looking for issues with any of the previous questions asked, or supplanting, conflict of interest, any procurement issues, ineligible activity, or controlled equipment. Does it meet the priorities in the guidance? An item may be eligible under the grant program, but the further restriction implemented by the program priorities may still not allow a given item to be funded under that grant. Does it tie into a certain plan? For items like sirens, there must be a tie to a terrorism plan to show a direct tie to terrorism response, for an otherwise dual purpose or an everyday item. The tie must be specific. Another example for communications projects would be to clearly tie into the Ohio SCIP plan. Next, does the project explain the 5 W's? This would include items like who will be using the equipment, who will maintain it, where will it be going, for what purpose will it be used, and why is it needed, like how it addresses a gap or functional capability. And lastly, does the overall budget fall within the following percentages that are necessary based on grant regulations? For instance, for M&A, only 5% is allowable. For personnel, 35% for the law enforcement grant is allowable and 50% for the UASI grant. For UASI, 25% is required to go to law enforcement. Check the guidance for further regulations that might apply to your grant. Once all of these conditions have been met and it is an allowable project, then pertinent documentation must be submitted prior to approving the EGMS application. This might include an EHP completed if necessary, draft contracts and position descriptions of all personnel paid by grant funding, contact information forms, NIMS compliance forms, annual inventory certifications and master asset listings, assurances, and a signed grant agreement. Now back to step 3. So back to step 3 of your grant application. This is the step in which you will create your overall grant projects. These should be more generalized as they may include several line items within them. While the cost for the line items and the line items themselves may change, these projects must stay the same. After you are finished with creating your projects, you will have to link or allocate the line items to certain objectives within that project. Then click Next. For step 4, check off all the certification statements and click Next as well. Ensure all appropriate documentation is uploaded and then submit your application to the state. If you are notified your application is rejected, then here is how you might find the corrections and make revisions. Log into EGMS and click on Grant Application, then choose Rejected from the options at the top. When you click on the magnifying glass, then you will be able to see the overall project comments at the top of the page and the line item comments under Step 2. Follow the prompts here as an example of how to make adjustments. Then, after you have fixed your project, you may resubmit by clicking the checkbox Acknowledgements at the top and then the Submit button at the bottom of the page. If you have any further questions, please contact your Preparedness Grants specialist.